Welcome to Journey Home to Self. This is a place for us to explore the milestones, the roadblocks, the pit stops, and the breathtaking sights on the most important journey of our lives, the journey of coming back home to you. My hope is that through the stories, insights, knowledge, and wisdom we share here, you get inspired and activated to widely fall in love with choosing yourself every single moment. I'm your host, Deepshikha Sairam, and I am truly so excited and honored that you are here. Let's dive in and journey home to self together. Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Journey Home to Self. I know I say this all the time, but I am truly excited to have you here. I am always excited to bring another episode, and I'm so thankful that you're here listening to it. And today I have a treat for you. Today I have Christine Meyer, who's an executive life coach and author of Keep It Simple, Smartypants, Stop Overthinking, Start Aligning, Live Happy. I had the pleasure of reading this book last week and I absolutely loved it. We're going to talk about the book too with Christine. Since 2002, it's been her mission to empower, educate, and uplift. She coaches the ultra successful people. You think they wouldn't need a coach, and she coaches them to dream even bigger, reach beyond their limitations, and know themselves from the inside out, which allows them to move through life confidently and happily while making the impact that they want to make. Her second book, I'm excited about it, in her Keep It Simple Smartypants series will be out in 2024. Christine, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Thank you so much for having me here. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be here. Thank you. I'm doing well. How about you?
I am excited. I am doing well. I am pumped for this episode. And, we were just talking about this before we hit record that I loved your book. And I loved your book because it has such deep lessons in it, but it's also so simple and it is created for us to read from our, neocortex. It's created so that we can read from our analytical brain. But every time the information goes in, my soul was like, yes, yes, yes. It resonates with your entire being. And sometimes personal development books I've read so many of them. Most of them are great. Some of them are not that great, but they can be really cumbersome. They're very deep concepts, but your book just straight away gets into it. I love that it just gets into it and talks about the heart of who we are. And even the way that it's being created, the graphics, the illustrations, the mismatch of the way it's been, formatted, it's so playful. Was that purposeful, Christine?
100% purposeful. Absolutely. And inspired. So it wasn't a strategy per se, but that's how it came out. And even the front cover, the design of the little stick man on the front, yes, reaching for the yellow balloon, that is a symbol to me. It symbolizes everyone is reaching for joy. Everyone is reaching for happiness, because there isn't a human being that you will meet on this planet who doesn't want that. Whether they know it or not, that's a different story. But every human being desires to feel happy. And so the symbolism of the reaching for the balloon is the balloon, the yellow balloon represents the happy, if you will. Yeah. And on that cover, you'll see the little stick man has the balloon in his hands, and he's reached happiness, or at least knows how to grab and hold on to that balloon. And so the whole book, really, my intention with that is to simplify something that could be very complex and something that's been misunderstood for many, 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 many years. Many people haven't understood it, certainly. Right. And my approach to life is I can take something complex and break it down to a simple. To me, it's a very simple thing. It's yes, this or that. And that I'm not implying that I'm closed-minded and it's a black and white, but I can break things down into a simple place. And my amazing designer, she took what I wrote, and I told her I wanted a stick figure and a yellow balloon, and she took the rest and played with it. And she did it so beautifully because she came up with the fonts and the graphics and all of that, but she got to the core and the essence of what the book represents. And yes, there's some deep information there, and I wanted it to be impactful. I wanted it to reach deep and resonate deeply with the core of who you are. That's the intention of it. And I wanted it to be playful, because from your soul's perspective, your soul is very playful. Your soul takes nothing seriously. Your soul sees life as a big old sitcom and is laughing hilariously, not at your hardships, but understands that they're valuable and there's nothing serious that's really happening in those moments when you as a human being are caught up in the things, the
Yeah.
layers.
Totally. I love that. And what's so resonating with me, something also we talked about before we hit the record button, is that it seems like the book was just an extension of your playfulness. It wasn't written to fit a formula. Usually when you read personal development books, there will be a quote at the top, there will be an exercise. It just feels like, you wanted to play, your designer wanted to play, and it just comes through so well. And I just shared with you that I read the book and I thought that it's going to be a perfect book to introduce my son, who's just turned 12 and is right in the middle of his puberty right now, to understand some of these concepts. Because what happens is, and you shared that your daughter does not want to read the book. She's
Not at all.
Yeah, what happens is that this is my way of life too. But when I talk to him about what I think and how I think, he doesn't want to hear it from me. But if it's coming from someone else and in a way that you've created it, it's just, he looked over it and he's like, yeah, that looks interesting. I'm going to read it. I'll read it. He hasn't started yet. I just gave it to him at breakfast this morning before school. But I feel that it's a wonderful book to introduce to kids as well. I would love for you to share it with the audience. Was it designed like that? Did you have that in mind? Or is it just something that has naturally created like that?
It just really came about. Again, I like simplicity. I like being direct. I like sort of taking away all of the frills and all of the things that we tend to make up stories with, and really get down to what's really going on here. And so the design is playful. Yeah, absolutely. And my approach as a coach is not to ever make you wrong or see yourself as needing to be fixed. And so I do find that in the personal development world, there's a connotation really that comes, maybe people aren't really saying it, but it sort of comes across as if you're wrong, you need to be fixed, and you need to do better. And that's not at all what I want to present to people, what I want people to think about themselves. Can you do better? Well, sure, if you want to. Can you feel better? Yes. And that's really at the core of my intentions with this book. I want you to understand that you were born perfect as you are, and you were trained, you were exposed to society, you were integrated into society, and beliefs from them and your own beliefs came about, and some of them might be off, if you will, from your soul's perspective, from what you knew when you were born. And so the playfulness is really, that's who we are at the core of who we are. And I want people to take this self-development stuff not so seriously.
Right.
Right? Because what's the point then? What's the point?
Yeah. I get caught up in it sometimes too. Sometimes, I would read a book and I would be like, oh, it's like step 1, 2, 3. And if I don't do the step 1, 2, 3, then it's not going to happen. Then I have to remind myself. So it doesn't
and that's
work.
So not true. Right. It's exactly. So not true. These are the foundations, and that's what I wanted to present. These are the foundations, and I'll give you some examples here, and I'll show you how to apply them in some ways. But really, it's got to be resonant between you and you. You've got to figure out your own way. There is no one right path. There is no one right way, although lots of people would have you believe so. Yeah. And you can do it your way, and you don't have to push against other people doing it differently. And that's again, in this whole book is diversity is what makes the whole universe expand, and sameness is not what was ever intended for any of us.
For sure. Yeah. Oh, I love it. We've talked so much about the books. I would love for you to tell us, there are 3 main themes in the book. Can you talk to us about the 3 main ideas that people need to know from the book? And I would love for everyone to go actually buy the book for themselves, their friends, their kids, and share it with them as well. But can you share with us that?
Yeah, well, number 1, you have a soul. Mm-hmm. Number 2, your emotions are important, incredibly important, in fact, but probably not for the reasons that you think, because you've been told differently all along. And number 3, you create your reality. It doesn't happen to you, it happens from you. And those are the 3 main themes. Now, the reason why those are important is that the idea that we create our own reality is not a foreign one, certainly not these days, because it's more considered, more accepted now to think that I'm creating my reality now than it was some time ago. So your thoughts create, but if you don't understand the piece of the emotions, the piece that emotions play in your creation, you'll think it's just about thinking or saying positive things.
Right.
And it's so not that, because the universe is never responding to your words. The universe is always responding to the essence of you, what you're projecting in vibration and energy. And so your emotions are that piece that help you understand what it is that you are projecting out into the universe, whether that feels good or whether that feels bad. And emotions are not a statement of your wrongness or your rightness. They're not a statement of the wrongness or the rightness of the conditions that you're observing either. They're an indicator, they're evidence of, if you will, what you're in this moment in the process of creating, and whether your perspective is aligned with your soul's perspective or not so much aligned with your soul's perspective. And that's really important, because then you can begin to understand how you do create your reality.
Yeah.
And then the third point being you create your reality is obviously important as well, because there's no one else thinking for you. There's no one else perceiving for you. There's no one else feeling for you. And there's no one else, as a result of that, putting out a vibration for you. You are the one doing it all, and things are responding to you. And so I think it's important for us all, me included, to remember those points as we navigate our life, as we live our life, and to understand the importance of those emotions. And it's not to hang on to the emotions and ruminate in them. It's, oh, that didn't feel good, so there must be a different perspective. And so this is a little aside, but we're all looking for connection.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like we're a planet full of people looking for connection. And so we're, for the most part, looking for connection outside of ourselves. But the connection we're truly all looking for, and I will make this statement with confidence, the connection that we are all truly looking for, first and foremost, is the connection to our own soul. It's not connection with others. And when we feel disconnected, it's because we are not in harmony with how our soul is perceiving this conversation, this situation, whatever else is going out in the world. That's not easy. That's not an easy thing to apply. But when you're not in harmony with your soul, you feel disconnected. And there's no one person in the world who could ever bring that connection back. That's up to you.
Totally.
That's up to you to find that harmony. Now, you can have a conversation with someone who can help soothe you back into that alignment, that harmony, certainly. But the point is, the connection doesn't come from outside of you. It's got to be that harmony between you and you.
Yeah, amazing. I love that. We're going directly into the heart of what I wanted to talk about. I want to talk a little bit about the first concept of the book. The first thing you say, you need to know you have a soul.
Yeah.
And I think everybody at a certain level understand that they have a soul, but they have forgotten that they are the soul. And from where I look at it, from the way I understand that, we understand that we are our ego, right? Our soul almost kind of like sits back and our ego takes front and center. Is that
your thinking mechanism takes front and center, right?
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I mean, the ultimate experience as a human being is to feel blended with your soul.
Mm.
I don't ever dish on the ego. I think ego is great. You have to have awareness of a personality. You have to have awareness of what your preferences are, because you are here to explore, discover, and to create yourself. You're the creation, meaning you're creating you, and you are the creator as well, you see? And so you must have a perspective of self. You just must. Now, when people say, oh, that's just your ego talking, it's like, well, okay, you can use that label if you want, but my perspective is more that's an out of alignment perspective. That's your ego talking, or that's in an alignment perspective. True, authentic ego would be alignment with your soul.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. That's what I was wanting to get at, is that it's not that ego is bad. It is very much a part of our wiring. We can never let go of it. But it's almost the harmony of ego and soul. It's like the marriage of both of them,
Yes.
which is alignment.
Yes, correct.
Okay, awesome. Awesome. All right. So let's talk about creating joy in your life.
Mm.
Why is, okay, let me put this differently. When I was growing up, and I was thinking about this in the shower the other day because I was thinking about our episode.
Showers are good
Showers
places
are
to
great,
think.
right? And I was like, I don't think anyone ever told me this. But still, I believed until a few years ago that joy is something that you're supposed to have after you've done
Mm.
checked all the boxes. Right? So when you've checked all the boxes, that's when you can, you will have joy. You've made the money, you've had the kids, whatever is in your checklist. And second thing is joy is fleeting. And this definitely I've learned from scriptures and, our culture. The joy is fleeting. Even if you have joy, it's fleeting. I think my question is why is joy so necessary for people?
Mm. Well, okay, so much here. So joy is something that you have to work into.
Mm.
Joy is the nature of your being. It's your natural state of being if you're in alignment. And you can't get to joy from looking around your world and looking at the things that bother you. You can't get to joy by focusing on the problem that you have here and now, or the money you haven't made that you want to make, or. And so joy takes practice. And the practice to get to joy really has to entail, what am I thinking and feeling right now? And choosing more on purpose, slowing it down. We as human beings tend to think fast and act fast. Think and act, think and act. And we react to the emotions that we're having, and then we perpetuate more of those. You see? So you have to start practicing something different. If you do really want to feel joy, and at the core of everyone's being, we do, and it is our birth given right, if you will,
Right.
then you have to start paying attention to what you're thinking about and how it feels. And you have to decide that feeling good matters. So you have to decide that, all right, I'm thinking and feeling about this subject in a particular way that does not feel good. Is there a way that I can feel better? Is there something else I can think about this? And you might not be able to accomplish a thought that feels better in that moment because you've been practicing something else. Like I say in my book, something like, you can't get to happy from crappy.
Yeah.
Right? But you can do it a little bit at a time.
Mm.
And so as you deliberately choose more thoughts that feel better, or find a subject that you easily feel good about, and you start practicing that, it's like getting in your car and you're not suddenly going 60 miles an hour. You work up to that by putting your foot on the gas pedal. Well, practicing daily thoughts, daily subjects, practicing on the daily, deciding how you want to feel about something, choosing how you want to feel versus what do I want to do about that? How do I want to feel about that on the daily allows that momentum to build.
Yeah.
And so another little piece to that is, to your point, you couldn't feel joyful until you got to the end.
Right.
Right. I think that's just a common perspective of humanity that, well, I can't feel good until I will feel good when. And again, when how I say in my book is like, I'll be happy when is a human thought trap, because then when does when come?
Yeah.
And so again, it's getting in the practice of finding things to feel satisfied about. So can I be satisfied? Because as human beings, we're always going to want. There's no one that you or anybody knows that isn't in a place standing where they are wanting something they don't have.
Right.
Right? We all have desires that are unfulfilled. And so the idea that I can't feel joyful or can't feel good or can't feel happy until that comes into my experience is a very conditional one and a very false premise.
Mm.
And so the intention, the reason we're out here manifesting and creating, but the first manifestation truly is how you feel. And so if you can understand that even though that hasn't improved, or even though you don't have the brand new car you want, or the house, or the person beside you, whatever that is, whatever, you can start to feel anticipation. You can start to feel forward into what that would feel like. And when you're doing that, you're feeling it now and you're having a pleasurable moment now.
Yeah.
And so many people tend to have these desires, unfulfilled desires, that they're inevitably on their way to, because that's the basis of the universe, but believe that it's in their dissatisfaction of where they are that it allows what they want. And that can't be further from the truth. You have to find a way to be satisfied with where you are, to allow more of what you want.
Yeah. And I think through that, you answered my second question, which was, why is joy so fleeting? And when you were talking, I was like, oh, that makes perfect sense. Because when we make joy conditional and we say that I'll be joyful or I'll be happy when that happens, it will be fleeting because that moment will pass.
Correct.
But when you're feeling joy on the way to do it, then
or satisfaction on your way to joy.
Right,
you see,
right.
you can't be practicing being cranky and be joyful. Joy will 100% be fleeting in those moments, because you'll see a dog running or something and you'll feel joyful in that moment, but then you'll pick up your thoughts where you last left them, which was in that feeling of dissatisfaction. I'll just generalize it here and say dissatisfaction. And so you have to practice feeling happy. You have to practice finding things to feel good about. And that sounds conditional there, but if you have to do it that way, at least start practicing feeling good, feeling satisfied. And again, that big misunderstanding is that if I'm not happy with something right now, I need to point at it. I need to tell you and you and you and you about how dissatisfied I am about that. And that will make it change, right? No, you're just going to keep recreating that and experiencing it. Even if you leave whatever that is that you're so dissatisfied about, you're taking you with you wherever you go, and your perspective and how you feel, and you're creating and projecting that. And I like to say, from your now, what you're thinking and feeling now, and if you continue to think and feel it, you make a reservation into your future to have more of it. Right. So what kind of reservation are you making?
Yeah. I know this, that what you're saying is the Holy Grail. If people get this, if we all get this, and if we practice this, because we forget, right?
It's practice. It's practice. You're going to react to life. I mean, we look, we observe, we see things, we hear things, right? So we are human beings having this human experience, but we are never separate from our soul. Our soul is never saying, see you later, dude. Like, I'm out of here. Your soul is always joining you, but you've got to tune to it. It's like all of the stations on Sirius XM exist, but you've got to tune to a particular station to hear the music or the content that's being played on that broadcast on that station. And so your soul never leaves you, and you've got to continue to practice that perspective, because not that many people are talking about this, honestly. Yes. And it's way easier to, as human beings, to try and control someone else's behavior and hold them responsible for how you feel than it is to take the credit for how you feel and do something about feeling better or achieving a different perspective. So again, we're all observing our realities and we're all reacting to them. But can you understand that process and say, all right, I had a reaction, no big deal. Again, this work that I do here is not about self-blame or self-criticism. It's about understanding how you create and making those choices on purpose.
Right. Right. Like, so as I was saying, that this is, if people understand, it's super simple, but it's also difficult to understand for some people. It took me a long time to understand it. But the big question, Christine, that I get, and even I have on most days, is how? How do I do it? I feel crappy. Nothing in my reality has changed. How do I begin to feel satisfied? Or how do I even begin to change how I feel? Because truly, internally, I don't feel that way. So what would be maybe a first couple of steps that people can start taking?
Well, I like to introduce a couple of games, really, to start. And I like to do the sunshine, cloud, and rainbow. So just to demonstrate that your thoughts do affect how you feel. So the sunshine being a representation of something that if you close your eyes or whatever, just come to a thought about something that, whenever you think about it, feels like sunshine, feels happy. So you see that your thoughts went someplace and you have this feeling response. And now set that one aside And then now think of a cloud. So as I say the word cloud, I get a visual of a cloud, and then I think, all right, so what subject for me right now, let's say, or am I habitually in the habit of thinking about, and it doesn't feel good?
Mm-hmm.
So feel that. I thought of something and I immediately have a feeling response that doesn't feel good. Now think about a future rainbow, something that you're looking forward to,
Mm-hmm.
and think about that subject and how do you feel? So there's an emotion associated with your thoughts. There's an emotion associated with your choice of focus. And so that's number one. I want people to make that correlation. So then it goes to, well, think more about the rainbow and the sunshine than the cloud.
Mm-hmm.
Then, so to put this into practice, some of the games are to help you get in the habit of training your mind to think good feeling thoughts is what makes my life easy. Most everyone, even if you're experiencing hardships, can look around their environment and think about what makes my life easy. And these are things like a pen to write on paper, or my phone so I can communicate with people, or a desk that I can do work at, eyeglasses to see, socks that keep my feet warm, shoes that keep my feet going somewhere outside, a coat, a toothbrush, toothpaste. So you see, that's a game. And the point of that game is to get you purposely choosing something, a train of thought that feels good.
Mm-hmm.
And to practice the vibration, to practice the frequency that you become familiar with. The other thing is when you do find yourself happy, if you've just sort of obliviously blundered into happiness or joyful, sort of take a picture of it in your mind, feel it, milk it, stay on it, get comfortable and familiar with how that feels, because you can change how you feel by closing your eyes and thinking about an emotion. Nothing has to change. And if you are determined, if you will, for lack of a better word right now, if you are determined to make how you feel important, meaning make feeling good or better important, you can sit and think about an emotion. And when you sit and think about an emotion, you can evoke and feel that emotion and get familiar with that.
Hey, Deepshikha here. I just wanted to take a quick break and thank you for tuning in. I love making this podcast for you, and I hope you love listening. If you do, the best way to show it is, yes, you guessed it, reviews. Reviews, especially on Apple Podcasts, help the show's visibility and get it to more people. So if you're enjoying the show, let us know. Thanks again. All right, let's get back to the conversation.
Another game that I like to play is come up with words in the alphabet that feel good, that start with each letter of the alphabet. Mm-hmm. Now, I've had some adults use those letters and plug in like sexual words, and they have fun, like, right? It's like whatever.
Like it's play.
Whatever.
Right.
It's play. And that's the idea, is that's how you start bringing in more playfulness into your life as well, as playing these games, because they are games, but it's also helping you make those correlations between what I'm thinking and how I'm feeling. Those are direct results. Those are immediate consequences, I suppose, to your thoughts, your emotions. And your emotions are always the first indicator of what you're in the process of creating, but also the first manifestation. Emotions are a manifestation. Mm-hmm. And we all think that we're going for to your point earlier, the thing, right? The manifested, tangible manifestation. That's what we all think we're wired for. But truly, the desire is the means for the journey, which is what your soul wants. Mm-hmm. And so the end result is fleeting. You get the brand new car, you love it, and it's great, but then you're already onto something else. Yeah. So the only sustainable thing is to learn how to achieve an emotion that you want to feel. Mm-hmm. Then that's when joy becomes more sustainable. Does that mean that you're wrong or bad, or you're not doing it right if you're not joyful? Heck no. The biggest distinction I want to make with everybody is that, the difference. I'm choosing to be mad right now. Okay, how about it? How about it? That's not how your soul is perceiving this situation. You're mad right now and you have every right to be. Fine. Mm-hmm. But understand that to have a good feeling life, you can't stay mad. Yeah. And not staying mad isn't up to the condition to change or someone else to change. Yeah. It's up to you to find a way to see it from a different perspective.
Yeah, I love that you said that, because one of the things that came to my mind, maybe listeners were also thinking that how is it, I feel like a lot of people get trapped into this idea that how is it then different from avoidance or escaping the emotion, right? How are we then, are we not spiritually bypassing the emotion that you're feeling? What
Yeah.
you said makes sense. Do you have anything to say to that? And then I'm also going to add something.
I really do, because it can be very misunderstood, right?
Go
But
ahead.
I'm not saying ignore. I have never said ignore how you feel. I have always said pay attention to how you feel and do something about how you feel.
Mhm.
That's very different from bypassing. That's very different. That's taking ownership of how you feel, regardless of what's going on, regardless of whether, if someone else, air quotes, did something to you. You rendezvoused with it. You rendezvoused with it. So how is that about you? How is this benefiting you? Because no matter what, everything that you perceive as being a betrayal, everything that you perceive as a wrongdoing, everything that you perceive as an injustice is always benefiting you when you're involved. It just always is. I know that can be a challenging perspective to grasp, but if you believe otherwise, you will be powerless for the rest of your lifetime.
Mm.
Because how you feel is something that you can do something about. How someone else behaves or does, or whether or not they apologize or see. So again, I'm not saying that injustices, again, air quotes here, don't happen, right? Things happen that don't feel good. Yeah, I get that. We're not denying that. And I'm also saying that even in that context, even when those things happen, there is something for you there that is to your benefit. There is something there that has expanded you and made you become even more. Does that take practice? Absolutely. Because when something's happening that you don't like, you sure as heck don't want to be taking the credit for that, do you? Like, I wouldn't create something I don't want. And I want to say, well, you're not doing it on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing it by not paying attention to what you've been thinking and feeling. You're doing it by a little bit by default. We all do.
Yeah. There are two aspects of it that I'm thinking. One of the thing is that it's totally okay to feel your emotions. That's what, we've talked about this in the podcast. The idea is, and you mentioned that as well, that how long are you going to keep the reaction up? If you're mad, then are you choosing to stay mad for the rest of your life? And that's when at some point you have to say that, okay, I'm mad at that person, this person, he wronged me, that wronged me. But you know what? I choose joy. I choose something else. So how long are you going to keep the reaction up? Because there are people, and we've all done that at some point in time or the other. We've kept the reaction, the refractory period of an emotion so long that it's become a part of our personality. It's become a part of our temperament. It's become a part of our short-term
Identity,
mood identity.
story.
Right. That's one. The second thing that I have a hard time coming to terms with is the injustices. So the racial discrimination and, things like rape and murder and, what's happening around the world. That's something that I really have a hard time wrapping around. That I'm even like, I'm going to forget my words, because when you were saying that, something in my body was just like, oh, like this doesn't feel true to me right now. Because there's a section of our society which is like, no, fuck that. Like, I don't believe in that. I don't believe that I've created.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I do understand that.
Yeah.
I do understand that. And yet we are all creators of our own reality. That doesn't mean that we don't rendezvous with things we don't want. That doesn't mean that we don't rendezvous with things that do from the outside look like injustice, you see. But all of those moments expand. All of those moments clarify stronger desires. All of those moments make society better, honestly. And so this is not at all intended to make the victim the wrongdoer. That's not at all. And when people start entertaining this idea, these concepts, these perspectives, that's kind of where you want to go, is to those injustices and those wrongdoings, right? And say, well, let me make sense of that then in the context. And I say, well, first, just take a step back a little bit and let yourself make sense of it in your own life first, on those easy parts. Help yourself see those correlations, because going to the big things is always going to bring more resistance to your acceptance or understanding of it to begin with. So it's way easier to go to places where you can start making those correlations more easily. And then as you get more immersed in it and see those correlations, and then keep asking, is there a different perspective that I could have about some of those subjects? Then things will come to you. Different thoughts will occur to you. You'll see that doesn't mean that you like those situations, right? Like in the book, I say, if you don't like turnips, I'm not telling you you need to like turnips.
Yeah.
But the turnips are still going to be turnips.
Mm.
So what are you going to do about that? Are you going to focus on those turnips that are on the buffet table amongst 10 other items on the menu that you like?
Mm.
And so it really is about the direction of your focus and how you decide to perceive things. So I always say, really, at first, stay away from those really hot topics, because of course, those are going to be harder to understand. You're going to reject the idea that anybody was a co-creator in that situation.
Yeah.
You are. So you have to show yourself law of attraction. You have to show yourself the process of creating your reality first on those easier subjects. Does that make sense?
That totally makes sense. And I know that when you say stay away from those subjects, what you're saying is that don't apply this to those subjects yet. We're not saying to stay away from those subjects and don't get yourself involved, but we're saying don't apply these concepts to that big,
because it's too difficult. It's like trying to teach a toddler how to do script.
Right.
Well, they haven't learned their ABCs yet. That's what I'm saying. And I'm not saying that those things aren't happening. That's not at all the message here. Stuff happens out in the world. And that's all, believe it or not, benefiting everyone. It expands. It brings our desires to a different level. Like, without injustice, how would we know justice?
Right.
Without mistreatment of many people, how would we know what beautiful, equal, fair treatment is? You see? And so regardless, you are the creator of your reality, and we are all here co-creating with each other, bumping into each other. It's kind of like if you lace your fingers together, they fit. And so when you're bumping into something, there's always a fit somewhere. There's always a fit, and it's always for your benefit, not to your detriment. But it is how you perceive it that helps you move through it one way or the other.
Yeah. And when you're starting to understand these concepts, then sometimes it's easier to do it on smaller things in our life, not even like your big goals, but smaller things in your life, so that you can practice and get better at it.
Yeah. And more than anything, like if you just sit and play that sunshine, cloud, and rainbow game right there, that helps you understand that, right, I thought that and I felt better. I thought that and I felt worse. I felt my energy sink. I thought that and I felt better. You see, so it's just starting to make those associations. What I think and how I feel is what manifests.
Mm-hmm.
And if I keep it up, it does perpetuate, and it does seem to get bigger.
Right. All right. I would love for you to share with our listeners a little bit more on how you use joy in your life and in your work. I think with your example, we can all learn how to almost like, I feel like joy, if we use it as the North Star, everything can fall into place. All our desires can fall into place. But when you're so focused on those manifestations, sometimes joy can again be fleeting. So how do you do that in your life?
Well, I start my days with intention. So I start my days with a really general, I lay in bed and I just think good feeling thoughts, frankly, really general. I like my bed. I like my pillow. I like the feeling that I have laying here. Oh, I'm looking forward to a good day, like that kind of a thing. And again, that doesn't sound like joy, but it's allowing joy to come through, you see? And so I do that. And I'm not joyful 100% of the time, but is my intention to be playful and have fun and feel optimistic and feel appreciation? Yes. And then from that, I do understand that joy, that perpetuates the movement toward joy. And so I pay attention to how I'm feeling. I ask myself how I want to feel. I think about things that feel good. When I integrate fun into my day, even if there are things I need to do, right? There are things on my list that I need to do. I think of how can I bring fun to that equation? How can I make that more fun or joyful? Personally, my intention is for people to learn how to joyfully, playfully live unapologetically. Like,
Yeah.
don't apologize for being joyful. Demonstrate it, feel it, and others will see that it's possible for them too. But my intention is not, I'm going to feel joyful. It's more, for me, my way in is fun, because fun represents joy. Playful represents joy. Look at those children playing. Look at those children having fun. They are joyful, but they didn't say, I'm going to feel joyful.
Right. Right.
So I feel like sometimes we as adults get a little too serious about all of this stuff and forget that it's a natural consequence. Joy is a natural consequence of bringing playfulness into your life, of bringing joy or fun into your life. And so again, how can I make this more fun? How can I do this even if I'm going to vacuum? I really don't like vacuuming. I really don't. And I haven't changed my mind about that, honestly.
Right.
But if I've decided I'm going to do the vacuuming and it's going to get done, then how can I have the most fun with it? So that's how I apply some of that. And in conversations, it's like, why are we all being so serious?
Yeah.
I just like to think of fun. I entertain myself seriously all day long. I think I'm the funniest person ever. Maybe no one else does, but that doesn't matter to me because I'm having fun. I
Yeah.
say something out loud and I think, ha ha, I'm so funny. And it's learning to take yourself less and less seriously. Does that happen overnight? Heck no. Does it bringing more fun into your life happen overnight? Heck no. And I don't mean just doing fun things. I don't mean getting out and only having one definition of fun. I mean, can you feel fun? Can you feel fun? Can the most simple thing that you're doing feel fun, feel satisfying, feel good?
Yeah. Yeah. I am a big fan of taking even like 1 degree shifts. I feel like those 1 degree shifts
Absolutely.
are so they're influential in our life. And sometimes when you're starting this, and I'm with you on that. I feel like I'm the funniest person on earth and I'm crack jokes and my kids don't think that they're funny at all, but I do think so. And I also love vacuuming, but I'm sure many people want to know, what do you do? What do you do to make it more fun? We'll get to that in a second. But I think when we're starting to make things fun, it can feel hard. It can feel like
Yeah.
you're faking it till you're making it. But that's the way to do it. Sometimes
Well,
you have to do
right.
it a little, a little bit. You have to be forceful about it, and it can feel like you're faking it, but until
Well,
it becomes natural.
yeah. But it doesn't have to feel like you're faking it if you are genuinely feeling fun. If you're reaching for the fun of it, that's not faking it.
Well, what I meant by that is that it can feel like an effort. Like, if I'm, let's say,
Well,
watching
any new habit,
right,
feels like an effort,
yeah,
like anything, right? And I like to use this analogy or this example because it's pretty much everybody can relate to it. If the power goes off and you're going to flush the toilet, right? You're in the habit of flushing the toilet. If the power's off, you're going to flush that toilet
right,
unless you think really, really hard about it. And that's like any new direction. If you drive to work one way every day, you're going to have to think really hard about going a different way, because
yeah,
habit is momentum. Habits are momentum, you see. And so momentum, like in the car, you just keep rolling. You just keep rolling in one direction. And so it does feel like effort. It can feel like effort
yeah,
to change the direction, but soon enough, like any habit, repetition, practice, right? And it's not reason to beat yourself up because you didn't achieve it this moment or this moment. It's like, oh, well, give it another try. It's like when the baby falls down, the baby doesn't go, oh, crap, I'm never getting up again. The baby might cry because it might have jolted itself or hurt itself, but
right,
it's going to get right back up very soon. And it
yeah,
believes that it wants, the desire is superseding any belief that says you'll never get up again. You fell, sucks for you. Too
yeah,
bad. You might as well just sit and stay. So that's the idea. Is a habit, yes, can feel effortful, if you will, can take extra thought and focus, but like anything, the more you do it, the easier it gets. And the more you do it, the easier it gets. And then soon that will be a habit.
right. And then you won't have to try that hard to
Then
make.
it won't be trying, it will
Yeah,
just be natural. I mean, I'm sure that all of your listeners, you included, can think of times when you were implementing something new into your life, whatever that might have been, and it felt harder or a little bit more challenging when you first started, even integrating new thought forms, new beliefs, new practices in your life. It felt more challenging at first. And now you just automatically do. In fact, when you were a child, it wasn't in your thought form to go brush your teeth first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
Right. And so, but over time, your parents probably trained you to brush your teeth in the morning and night. Now, for the most part, at least, is that not one of the first things that you do?
Totally. Yeah.
Right. So many things are not things that at first you don't think of doing them. But if you start thinking about doing them and then redo them again and practice and practice and practice, then it becomes this thing that at one time you used to have to think really hard to do that. And now you just do it. But same thing goes for habits that aren't serving you anymore, right? And that's a lot of people don't question what they've come to believe and see if that really feels good anymore. They just accept that what they believe and what they've come to know, if you will, is the big T truth, and don't question whether there's a different perspective, a different point of view that they could have about those things. And that's really what I'm encouraging people to do, is not to judge yourself for having held those beliefs or come to those conclusions. It's just, is that really what I want to continue to believe? Because if I'm trying to create something that I've not yet created, but I have a belief that tells me I haven't done it yet, so I probably can't, or it's impossible, those beliefs, those thoughts do not serve me. They don't move me toward my desire, accomplishing my desire. In fact, they keep a big old open gap there.
Yeah.
Between what I'm wanting and where I currently stand.
And coming back to that joy, I think when you've made joy a practice, then, so what I love doing is self-inquiry, right? Not judging myself and not being like, why didn't I make that goal happen? But just inquiring, like, what's keeping me back? What's like, and when you just keep questioning yourself and you inquire into your own mindset, the answers come. But when you made joy a practice, then you're doing it from a place of not taking yourself so seriously. And then the answers just reveal themselves. And then it's even fun. You're like, oh, I didn't do it because I believed I was not worthy, or I believe that I couldn't get to that goal because XYZ will happen. Oh, now I have the power. I have the power to change it. So I think the two main things that I am definitely taking from a conversation, it's one, don't take yourself so seriously.
Well, do your best not to. I mean, you will, right? You will, but don't take that so seriously either.
Right.
Like, again, it's a practice.
Yeah. And that's the second thing that I'm taking, that it's all a practice. We're not saying you're going to be sitting on the mountaintops of Himalaya and become the enlightened one. We're all just moving a little bit.
But what is enlightenment, right? What is enlightenment? Enlightenment is in the moment when I'm feeling unified or harmonizing with my inner being, my soul. That's enlightenment in that moment. Is enlightenment a static thing? Well, I think that's questionable, because in this moment you might be focusing on something that really doesn't feel good. You're not enlightened in that moment, but you're not wrong. You're not a bad person for viewing it that way. So I think that, again, I think we all make a big deal about that. And the self-actualization piece is like, what you feel self-actualized when in this moment you're thinking a thought that harmonizes with your soul. Because you're always going to evolve. Things are always changing, and you're always going to want. And so you're on your way to things way more of the time than you are in the manifested moment of it. You see? So we've all heard the joy is in the journey. Well, it really is. It can be found in the journey. It doesn't have to be the end result of some manifested moment. You see? You make those moments, you create those moments, you feel those moments into being. And so I will not ever believe that any of us were born to be miserable. Now, I'm not making anyone wrong. If that's their perspective of life, I get life has been hard. Yes, for many, many, many. Yes, absolutely. And yet, despite the conditions, despite what's happened or is happening, there are still opportunities to feel for moments of relief, to feel for moments of less dissatisfaction. You see, and that's also the way to joy. Is, are you pissed? Okay, be pissed, but can you feel eventually, right? Decide that you want to feel better, decide that you want to improve how you feel, and feel a little less pissed. And then a little less, and a little less, and a little less. But that's with intention and desire to feel better. That's not with intention and desire to be right.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like that's a perfect note to end this episode. And I'm super curious, Christine. What do you do fun to make your vacuuming fun? I'm super curious right now.
Oh, I do designs, or I put music in my ears, or I chase the dog around with the
I love that.
vacuum.
I love doing that.
Yeah, or whatever might be in the moment. But I try it. I try. You see, I'm still not there yet.
Right.
But I don't like the action of vacuuming. But can I take my mind from the task at hand and have a fun time in my head? 100%.
Yeah, totally.
That's up to me to do.
Yeah.
There's the distinction where you can say, well, I'll never vacuum again. That's fine. But that's not a reality. Vacuuming does need to get done at some point.
Yeah.
So again, it's like, it's all a state of mind. It
Right.
really is.
It really is. Absolutely. Thank you so much for being on the show, Christine. So much wisdom that you are taking away from this. Where can the listeners find you?
My website is ChristineMeyerCoaching.com. I'm on LinkedIn, Christine Meyer Coaching. I'm on everywhere as Christine Meyer Coaching.
Awesome. Love that. All right. Thank you so much for being on the show again. It was
Thank you.
so fun.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you liked this one or any other episode, there are 3 ways you can support us. Number 1, come home. Start your journey. That's literally the whole point of this podcast. To inspire you, to empower you, and to give you the knowledge and tools so you remember who you really are. Number 2, I'd be so grateful if you could leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. That helps us get in front of more people. Number 3, share it with someone, a friend, a family member, a loved one, a peer. You never know how much someone needs to hear this today. Thank you again, and until next time, remember, you're whole, you're enough, you're worthy, you're unlimited, and you are perfect just the way you are. I'll see you next time.